Welcome everybody, this is the Viva Connections SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. It is December 29th, 2022. This is the last community call of the 2020, and next time it will be actually in 2023, which is pretty cool. Time is flying when you're having fun. My name is Sergej Juvonen. I'm a Principal Product Manager in Microsoft 365 platform areas, and today we'll go through a typical set of latest updates on the SharePoint Framework. Then we'll go through an updated set on the individual projects and the open source initiatives which we have. Few notes on the community samples. We'll do a together mode picture with them, those who are willing to enable the video, and then we'll have 2 demos today. Unfortunately, we needed to reschedule one of the demos, which we communicated in the agenda. It's okay, that happens. 2 demos is more than enough for sure. We'll start with Sergej, related on Bash for the Vault web parts and quick links extension after the intro section, and then we'll go to Nico, related on my experience as a first-time contributor to CLI for Microsoft 365. I'm super interested on hearing that as well, because we want to make sure that every single person who wants to contribute within our open source efforts will feel appreciated, and there's going to be guidance and people helping you to get started. And I know in Nico's case, that certainly was the case, or we'll see. So hopefully it's a positive message, not a negative message. I'm watching Nico, your face. So before we get started, there are multiple opportunities of getting involved in our Microsoft 365 platform community. In this particular call, you can do, for example, demos for SharePoint Framework, building extensibility for SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Viva, and more. You can demo PnPjs stuff. You can contribute, of course, in a GitHub, or most importantly, provide feedback. So if you don't really want to do live demos or contribute samples, for us in Microsoft, it's super important to know what works and what doesn't work. It's as simple as putting a comment in a chat within these calls is it's much more than nothing. So we know actually what works and what doesn't work. Also, if you're looking into getting exposure for your contributions or for your samples or the work what you've been doing, we would love to have you doing live demo within this course. So especially on the Thursday call series, which happens on every single Thursday, we are always looking into having community demos, community contributors, community presenters in here. So please sign up for the AKMS M365 PnP request demo. Probably need to update, by the way, that URL a bit in the future, but it's okay. The AKMS addresses will be updated accordingly. Now, we do have 2 different YouTube channels available for you to take advantage. These are actually going to get merged gradually. We're working on a plan on that one. Just to provide a bit more clarity on which channel to follow for what topics, it's easier that there will be one channel. Due to historical reasons, we ended up on this a bit of a nasty situation that we have 2 channels. Right now, you can subscribe to both of them. In future, we will provide you guidance on which one is the one where the latest videos and guidance will be always available. We have a lot of open source assets available from Microsoft and also from community. But it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample for you. So we have actually sample galleries, which you can use to search the right sample and right code piece for you. So there's a free text search and filtering based on, for example, products within there. There's a lot of URLs to remember. Luckily, there's actually only one, which is AKMS M365 community, from where you can get access on all of these different assets and information and even more, including downloading the recurrent invites for all of our community calls. And just to be super clear, all of our community calls are open for anybody to join. And the whole point of this course is that we as a Microsoft or community members will do demos and we talk about what works, what doesn't work. So everybody will benefit from the shared knowledge of the community. So everything is welcome for you. You don't, of course, have to join all of them. Every single one is getting recorded, and they're getting published as a recorded video in our YouTube channel. So making it super easy for you to consume the information as well. Now, for next week in our Microsoft 365 platform call, which is intended to be the Tuesday 8 a.m. Pacific time call, where we have Microsoft presenters, we actually have one more special Tuesday call, which is more about coffee and tea. So we'll have a random ad hoc discussions on topics. We answer questions. We answer on any feedback what you might have. So more like a hang around together with the community. This has been actually surprisingly popular on 20th and this week. So there has been a lot of people actually attending and asking really good questions. So great opportunity if you have something in your mind and you want to know more, join on the 3rd of January call and let's have a discussion on that. And then starting from 10th of January, we will will move back on the normal Tuesday call series, which is 2 to 3 demos presented by Microsoft employees on a specific topics. I know for the 10th of January, we already have Viva Connection, SPFx, and Microsoft Graph stuff on the agenda. Now, coming back on the samples and coming back on getting involved in the community, you might feel a bit overwhelmed and might not feel like, okay, how would I do that? Luckily, we do got you covered, and I will let David Warner to talk about what is Sharing is Caring initiative.
Awesome. Thank you, Vesa. Well, in the theme of getting involved today, excited for Nico's demonstration on how he got involved on CLI for Microsoft 365. But there's a number of other areas that you can get involved as well, as Vesa had mentioned, providing samples. And with those can come a little bit of uncertainty and maybe some fear around how to navigate GitHub and those waters within the technological universe. Well, as mentioned, the Sharing is Caring program is here to provide hands-on training, and what that means, and hands-on guidance in a safe space opportunity. And that means that we're going to get on calls with you. We're going to show you how to perform your first GitHub pull request if you've never done it, or if you have and you just want to understand a little bit more about that landscape and what the different terms mean. We can talk about that. But these are safe space opportunities, which means that they are not recorded. You're free to ask any and all questions that you would like, and you're going to be working alongside members of the community, members of Microsoft, MVPs, all collaborating, like-minded, passionate individuals such as yourself, wanting to help one another. So we've got a number of upcoming sessions, first-time contributor, writing for the web. They are open for registration. You can do that now, and we'll be sending out those invites within the next day or two. So if you haven't got them yet, keep an eye on the email there. Absolutely free of charge. There is no cost. We are here to provide you assistance and guidance because we are one global community that are passionate about helping one another out. So definitely get involved. A number of topics and themes here that you can learn more about and work with others in the community. Once you do that, of course, we also want to show our appreciation for what you're doing. And so we started our recognition program a couple of years ago, and it's been live and strong and growing. You've got just a couple of days left if you want to get that Season of Getting badge, which is exciting and fun. And we've got even more badges coming soon as well. So I mentioned a PnP PowerShell badge, CLI for Microsoft 365 badge coming soon, and of course, the horse that we all love, list formatting, is going to be a badge, and we're actually going to retroactivate that for 2022 as well as upcoming for 2023. So keep an eye out. If you have already opted in, don't need to do it twice. But if you haven't, we do need to connect who you are, your email address, to a Credly account. It is powered by Credly, the same Credly that provides those badges when you get certified. So it is official and accredited, and you can associate it to your LinkedIn profile, share it on Twitter, and let your clients and managers know all the amazing work that you're doing within the community in a formal and official way. So thank you all for being part of this program and all the amazing work. This is one small little piece that we can do to give back and say thank you to you in a way that you can show that you're making a difference. Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, David, on that one. Now, let's move then on the quick updates on the SharePoint framework. So nothing too dramatic here since the 2 weeks ago, as we went through the last time, the listing. Right now, we talked about this one in the past, we have tens of millions of monthly active users for custom components built by our customers and partners. So this is really, really cool. Obviously, there are hundreds of millions of users all up in the Microsoft 365, but tens of millions of custom components with SPFx is a huge number. And you can see the growth curve being quite interesting. You can see, of course, a typical drop down in the December, which we always see. That's a seasonal drop on the actual usage because everybody is hopefully on vacation. Well, some of us are on vacation, and we see that small drop always happening. And then by end of January, the growth curve is back online. For the SPFx in overall, 1.16.1 is currently the latest recommended version in production, and that was released on 13th of November. We did do some adjustments related on the latest version, flipping back to 1.16 and then back to 1.16.1 because some of the findings which we found, but all of those have been now fixed. 1.16.1 is the latest recommended version for production. 1.17 ETA is in the first quarter of 2023. That means between January and March 2023, and hopefully it does not slip forward. And there's going to be new capabilities and updates. For example, Note 19 and all of those updates are intended to be there. I cannot promise those at this moment. We'll see how this goes. And then during the 2023, we're looking into potentially finally move into the SPFx version 2, which might actually introduce a name change and a few other things with the SharePoint framework as well, because SharePoint framework is not only for SharePoint. The name is kind of a fooling for that. Of course, it's still also for SharePoint. It's just, that's not going to go away, but we're looking into potentially on extending things a bit. We're still waiting for the clarity on that internally from marketing perspective. Now, on the other projects in our open source efforts, PnPjs, no actual updates on this one. I will go through probably most of the slides because we have a lot of people on holidays and prioritizing family or charging batteries. So latest version on PnPjs is 3.10, which was released on December 13th. There are actually nightly versions available. So if you're looking into if you found a bug or you contributed and you want to test it out, there are nightly versions available also from NPM. So we have an automatic CDCI in place for the deployment. So really, really cool updates in there. On the CLI for Microsoft 365, 6.1 beta is the latest one. CLI version 6 just came out on the same day as SharePoint Framework 1.16.1. So unfortunately, in the current version 6 of CLI for Microsoft 365, it's still using, for example, SPFx 1.16 when you're upgrading things. So 6.1 will support 1.16.1. But that's not only for SharePoint Framework. There's a lot of other capabilities, of course, as well as part of the CLI for Microsoft 365. And please do give us feedback related on what do you need, what's available. If something doesn't work or something works, please use the GitHub and the Discord channels to let us know what actually works and what you would like to see in here. The 6.1 will be out, I think, within next week, unless I'm completely mistaken, but I need to confirm that a bit later. Now, on the SPFx reusable components, nothing really dramatic here either. So 3.12 is the latest one. There are on React controls. There's enhancements for dynamic form and site picker. 1.16 SPFx support in there. These are intended to support 1.16.1 quite soon after the 2023 calendar year flip. A lot of reusable controls, which you can take easily into account or take into your solution for Microsoft Teams, for Viva, and of course for the SharePoint as well. Now, one new slide which I added in here today is the Viva Connection Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. We're finally moving forward with this one as well. So I did release the latest version of Viva Connection Toolkit for Visual Studio Code today, which is 0.2.2. It was intended to be 0.2, but then I had a few typos in the README, so I needed to fix that 2 times. So that's why it's 0.2.2. Now, the latest version is using SharePoint Framework 1.16.1 and CLI for Microsoft 365 6.1 behind the scenes. And this is basically an overlay Visual Studio Code extension, which simplifies the usage of the SPFx Yeoman generator and also the CLI for Microsoft 365. So you can easily connect to your tenant. You can do operations like bundling solution, deployment of solutions, starting from existing scenarios, starting from samples. So there's a lot of additional value on this one. The cool thing about Viva Connection Toolkit is that it actually works with any SPFx solution. So if you have this extension available and installed within your Visual Studio Code, you open up an SPFx solution, the right side long panel is available for you. So you don't have to go to the command line and do bundle, ship bundle, or serve -- no browser, all of that. All of those are actually tasks directly in the panel. So it simplifies the development if you want to. Of course, you can still be in command line. So that's the beauty of this extension. Behind the scenes is just using the SPFx Yeoman generator and the CLI for Microsoft 365. So the option is to use them as well. So this is an overlay abstraction layer on top of them. And feedback more than welcome around this one. And then PnP Modern Search, the latest version is the one which was released for ESBC 2022. That was on the last week of November, 4.6 version. A lot of great features in here. A lot of new stuff also in the roadmap related on that one, and we'll keep on updating you on the updated changes. On the PnP SPFx sample side, there are quite a few contributions now pending in our pull request in the GitHub. We are looking into processing them. And a lot of the team has been on a vacation within last week and this week, but we'll catch up on all of the stuff as we move along within 2023. Now, before we go to the actual stars of today, let's do a quick group photo for those who are willing to enable the video. And I will do that one step at a time in here, if I can actually find again the together mode. And let's do that's my favorite actually. I will put that one in there. Let's see how many people are willing to do this. So if you put the video on, you'll be jumping into the screen. And I will soon start the recording. We do not have that many people joining today because, again, it is a slow week, so to say. But let's see how many things we can do. And I can see Don tip-tacking. Let's wait a few more seconds before we start recording and do some hand waving. We're still waiting. Well, still people are coming in. This is really, really cool. So let me put the recording on and we'll grab the GIF animation out of that as well. 3, 2, 1. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you once again for joining. Or really awesome to see you on the call. Really great to see this many people even on a holiday week in this call. Thank you, thank you. Awesome. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. Really, really cool. Good, good. And then we go to the actual stars of the day. So we do have Sergej starting around password vault web part and quick links extension. So something built on SPFx, and really curious on seeing more details on that one. And then Nico is going to talk about his experience around being a first-time contributor for CLI for Microsoft 365. But Sergej, let's actually go to your screen and let's start from there.
Yeah, okay, one moment. I will share my screen.
Take it away.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sergej Schwabauer and I work as a lead developer at AURUM GmbH in Nuremberg, Germany. I have more than 12 years of experience in SharePoint development, and recently I started a blog where I regularly write and publish my solutions. SPFx app.dev. I have to admit I'm a bit nervous because it's my first presentation here on the PnP community call. Moreover, I hope my English is good enough for you guys to understand everything. Today I may present two of my solutions. The first one is a SPFx web part, simple password vault. I will talk about the highlights and then show a demonstration. The second solution has nothing to do with SPFx, but with SharePoint. It's a browser extension. Let's start with the web part simple password vault. As the name suggests, it's a web part that's securely stores passwords and usernames. The idea didn't come from me. At that time, a colleague had asked me, "Hey Sergej, is it possible to create a web part that stores user data encrypted and can only be accessed by mass password?" I just answered, yes, of course it's possible. And my third open source SPFx solution was born. The requirements are simple. The data must be stored encrypted in SharePoint. The vault must first unlock to view or edit the data. The encrypted values can only be decrypted with the master password. Username and password can be copied to the clipboard with one click. Vault can be closed manually or will be closed automatically after 5 minutes. There are, of course, a few more features. So let's get right to the demo. Just imagine you have several project sites on your intranet. The team member works for a customer who has their own environment and has created only one user for this project. The easiest way is to share this data with all team members. This would be best be done off the project site. Since there is no company-wide password vault like KeePass or Bitwarden or something like that, then this site looks like that. The problem is, this is not a fictional story. I have seen something like this myself. It goes without saying that something like this is not insecure. It is insecure, sorry. Right now, at this moment, many people see the credentials during this presentation. Okay, they are invented, but nevertheless. Now let's play my password vault web part. Okay. I place it the first time. Password vault. and then you have to set a master password. If you don't set master password, it looks like that one. But we want to set one. Let's say PnP community call. You can show the password and hide it again. And then let's say the username is the same as above, super user and password 123. And the node is the same as here. Now we save the web part and publish this page. If you enter a wrong password, for example, just something like test, or I don't know, let's see here, test, then the default will not be open, of course. But if we enter the correct password, that was PnP community pass, or I forgot the master password. So as you can see here, even in this case, the password is not visible in plain text. I mean, of course, you could make it visible again, but it's not needed. So I can copy it without display it. So if now I can close the vault if the username and password is not needed anymore, or if I don't close it. For example, if I refresh the page, it is open, but it's only open for the next 5 minutes. I demonstrate it quickly because it will be saved in the session storage. Go to the session storage and look for SPFx. As you can see here, it's just saved but encrypted. And if I remove, for example, this and this value, then it's the same as the reload after 5 minutes. And if I reload the page now, then the vault is closed again. In edit mode, when you go to the edit mode, you can edit the data, but of course you need to insert the master password again. So now you can change all the data or change the master password. And now you ask maybe, but are the values really safely stored? Let's take a look. Switch back to the maintenance mode here, and then to the data. And as you can see here, it's all encrypted. There's the master password, the username, the password, and the node. But is it still possible to decrypt it? Yes, if you know the master password and the internal source codes, then it is possible. But then it is easier to type the master password and open the vault. That's why it's also important that if the master password is forgotten, all data can no longer be recovered. By the way, the solution can, of course, also be added as a tab in Teams, as you can see here. So you can have the same functionality in Teams as a tab. Okay, guys, let's take a quick look into the code. This is here. I think it's not important what happened in the web part and in the component, because it's a simple Fluent UI design and read and write the values in the web part properties. That's why I'm only going to talk about the service. First of all, I use the Crypto.js as library for encrypting and decrypting. When a user tries to open the vault, I get the plain master password, the type before typed in master password, and pass to the open function. Then I encrypt the plain text password in the same way as the master password. That means SHA 256 with individual salt value. And check this encrypted hashed value with that one that starts in the web part properties. If it's equal, then I open the vault, decrypt the data, and set a session storage to keep it open for the next 5 minutes. This is this few lines. When a user closes the vault, I remove all session storage values and clear all properties. It's here. Because the master password is hashed, I cannot decrypt it, but all other data must be decrypted, of course. That's why I encrypt them with AES, stands for Advanced Encryption Standard. Here you can see that it's CryptoJS, AES, encrypt or decrypt, and I use every time other secret, as you can see here, for example, encrypt password, password secret key, username secret key, and node secret key. And yeah, that's it. That was all the magic behind this web part. Now let's look at to a quick summary. The web part is a simple vault web part to keep your data secret. At the moment, it's not yet available in the PnP SPFx samples repository, but I'm working on it. But in the meantime, you can look at my official GitHub repository for the solution. You can also download the solution there. For the next release, I plan to add a new feature that allows the user to secure multiple usernames, passwords, and nodes. Okay, that was a little insight into my web part. Now let's move on the second part, my browser extension. The idea is very simple, an extension that offers various dynamic quick links to SharePoint, such as site contents, site settings, and so on. I mean, who doesn't know it? A site is loaded, then it takes a while until the settings icon or gear icon is displayed. Then you usually have to make several clicks to get to site settings, for example. On a modern page, this is typically done via site settings icon, site information, view all site settings. Of course, you can also quickly enter the URL to the browser. You probably know the URL, don't mistype it, and are faster than the UI and the mouse clicks. The extension should help to reach it faster and more dynamically. By the way, this is my first browser extension. I have never developed one before. The requirements are simple. Keep it simple. Get the current Windows URL to determine the SharePoint URL. No SharePoint API calls are made. No check is made to see if the user has the permission. It means if you click on a link and you have not the permission for that, it's just the default access denied page appears. No data is read, stored, or passed onto third parties. You can store your custom URLs, and links for developers are included. Okay, let's start with a short demo. I'm here again on the same site as previously. And now I want to navigate to, let's say, website permissions. Here is my extension. It's installed here. I click on that, and now I click on website permissions. Now the extension redirects me to the right URL to layers 15 user.aspx. Now you probably think, then save it to the favorites. But the favorites are not dynamic. That means it is always fixed static URL. The browser extension, on the other hand, is dynamic. It tries to read the URL of the current site and determines the web URL, web application URL, and page URL, if you are on a page, of course. I will prove it on another site, this one. As you can see, here is the site Simple Password Vault, and here is the site Showroom. Okay. Now I click the same website permissions, and I'm still on Showroom, not on Simple Password, but the same SPFx page behind. That means it's more flexible, more dynamic than the favorite bar. Additionally, you can use the SPFx debug parameters. Let's say this one. I have here an example. This is a completely newly created SPFx application customizer extension. I have not made any changes. Now I want to test it. So I go into my code, into the manifest file, and just copy the ID of this. It's already running. And now I want to click to my extension, say SPFx app extension debug, then the extension asks for the application ID. I click to OK, and now it this is the application customer to be tested. As you can see here, it was passed to the SURL parameter in the browser. Before we look at the code, I would like to show the settings of this extension, because it's possible to set up the links. You can set, for example, the headlines. You can override it. Then you can see here, this is the default URLs that comes with the plugin, but you cannot change the URL, but only the labels. And you can say if it's enabled or disabled. The same for the pages, but this section will be visible only if you're on a page, of course. And then you have the possibility to set custom URLs. For example, let's check this one. This is the term store. I will create one, save it, and now I can go to term store, and this redirects me to the term store. So yeah, that was the setup of this extension. Okay, now let's take a quick look into the code. It's very simple and only one file. It's just one file, and the logic behind this is get the URL of the current tab, remove all the URL parameters, check if the current site is a SharePoint.com site. If not, an information is displayed in the extension, because the extension works only in a SharePoint tenant. Otherwise, it will check if it is a page here in the site pages library or pages library. If yes, it will try to build the URL of the page. The same is then done for libraries, lists, and layouts path. At the end, you have, in the best case, all needed URLs and can build them accordingly. Here in create list item is the placeholders are replaced, and the actual link is built, because you, as mentioned before, you can use this placeholder in your links, and this will be replaced with the current web URL, web app URL, and page URL. Okay, I think that's it. Here are some more links to my blog posts and the code for the extensions and solutions. And I would say, keep your data secret, but not my web parts and extensions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sergej. Really, really cool stuff, and great job on the first time presenter as well. So thank you for doing this. And I know that it's always the first time is always the most, let's say, terrifying one, but you did an awesome job. Really, really good job. And the solutions were really, really nice as well. So awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sergej, on that one. Then let's jump directly to Nico's screen. Nico is here to talk about his first contribution and to the CLI for Microsoft 365 and how that went. We can see the screen, Nico. Take it away.
Thank you, Vesa. Today I will talk about my first experience as a contributor, and also what is important to know when you want to contribute yourself. So a little bit about myself. I'm Nico De Cleyre, and I work for Ordina Belgium. I started 12 years ago as a backend developer in SharePoint 2010. Shortly after SPFx was introduced, I switched more to client-side development. This was a good reason for me to contribute to the open source project CLI for Microsoft 365, since I already developed in TypeScript for SharePoint Framework. So it was a small step to do development for the CLI, since these are also written in TypeScript. I'm also a competence center lead at Ordina Belgium, and I also started blogging recently, so you can also find me on my blog. How it all started for me is actually at the Collab Days in Belgium, where I met Milan Wollemans and JC Wagenbaert. These two people were already active as a maintainer on the CLI for Microsoft 365. So at this event, we talked a bit on about CLI, and they got me triggered. So the day after Collab Days, I contacted them to ask how I could contribute to this amazing open source project. And they were able to explain me with great enthusiasm how you can start as a contributor on the CLI for Microsoft 365. So the first thing I did was make a separate fork. A fork is a new repository that shares code and visibility settings with our original upstream repository. On this fork, you can change things to your heart's content without breaking the actual upstream code. It is recommended that for each issue you do for the CLI for Microsoft 365 to create a separate bench for this. In this way, every issue you solve is protected in one separate bench. What also important is after you create your fork is to pull that fork locally. You do this by taking the link from your GitHub fork and cloning it locally with the command git clone, followed by the URL of the fork. Then with your command prompt, you can go to the folder where you cloned your fork and run the command npm install to install all the dependencies needed for the CLI for Microsoft 365. Of course, you need Node.js version 16 and Node package manager version 8. After you installed all the dependencies, you can run the command npm build to build the actual code. And finally, you run the command npm link. This last one is a important one if you want to start contributing, because with npm link, you create a reference to your local project. But be careful, because if you had already installed the CLI for Microsoft 365 globally, you must first uninstall it before you run npm link. Once these commands have been executed, you can use your local version when using the M365 command in your shell. But where do you actually start? When I looked at other open source projects, I always wondered how to get started. I always thought it was too difficult to contribute, that I wouldn't be able to successfully work out an issue. The CLI got you covered there. If you're just starting out as a contributor for the CLI, it is best to look at issues labeled good first issues. These issues are a little easier to start with, making the threshold lower. When you go to the GitHub repository for the CLI, you can create an overview with only the issues with the label good first issues. You can do that by clicking on the good first issue label next to an already existing issue, or you can filter it by clicking on the label column and selecting the good first issue label. Afterwards, you can scroll to the list and see which ones interest you the most. If you want to claim an issue yourself to solve, it is important that this issue is not already assigned to someone. You can see this if there is an icon in the column assigné next to the issue. If you have chosen an issue that interests you, you can open it and leave a comment field in which you indicate that you would like to claim that issue and ask to assign you. Shortly after you leave this comment on an issue, a maintainer will assign you, and this will be done by one of the 10 maintainers who are willing to deliver a better version of the CLI for Microsoft every day. I had the honor of working with these individuals for several months already, and I have to say they are all very nice personalities to work with. This is one of the reasons why I chose the CLI for Microsoft 365 open source project. This open source project is very lively, in my opinion, and you get so much appreciation for what you do. So I would like to thank the maintainers for all the great work that they do every day. What types of issues are there that you can take to solve? Well, there are actually great 4 types. The first one is a new command, usually proposed by one of the maintainers. A new command is always quite straightforward because it is always discussed with the whole community before a new command is opened to be solved. In addition, a new command lists the different options that belong to the command and explains what the command has to do. And sometimes it may be that an API is already documented in the issues that you can then use to display the desired result in the output of the command. So it's pretty easy. You know what to do. It's pretty straightforward. Second one is a bug that has been discovered by someone, and this person is kind enough to report this to us. I grade a bug for this. This one you can also take if you want to contribute. Thirdly, an issue can also be an enhancement. This means that an existing command must get a certain update. This can be a new option that needs to be added or an existing option that needs to be removed or replaced. Fourth and finally, an issue can also be a script that can be interesting to create, where that script uses the CLI from Microsoft 365 to achieve a certain goal. But I must warn you, when you want to contribute, Albert Jan Scott has already written it down on a blog post of his, and I have experienced it personally, and I quote, once the first command was done and I got my first PR approved, it did trigger a sort of addicting spark. So I ended up signing on for another one immediately. How do you write your first command? I try to show a sort of a timeline in what you have to take in mind when you want to write your first command. Well, the first thing you need to do is go to the location where the command should come in the repository. These are grouped according to the verb and then alphabetically. When you've found the right location, you create two files in that folder, a TS file for the actual command and a spec.ts file for the unit tests. The TS file often consists of one of the following parts: a name get function. This retrieves the name of the command. Next, a brief description of the command itself. And next to that, you can also have the default properties that must be shown when output text, separate value or markdown documentation is used. In addition, you see it on the second step here, there are also 4 possible functions in the constructor itself. You have the init options function. This function defines the options associated with the command itself. You have the init telemetry function. That's a function that collects and measures how many times an optional option is used. The mandatory option should not be added to this. Then the init validators function, where you can indicate which options should be validated. Think of an ID that can be a GUID, where it must therefore be checked whether it's a valid GUID. And the last possible option is the init option sets. It defines the option sets like the name says. For example, if you want either the option ID or the option title is used as an option for the command, but not both at the same time. Keep in mind that these 4 functions does not always have to be used in the constructor. Eventually, after that, we are still in the .ts file. You have the function of the command itself, where you can write the logic of the command. This function has 2 variables, each time a logger variable that you can use to log data during or after executing the command, and a variable parse, which contains, among other things, the options of the command together with their values. Next to the .ts file, you also have the spec.ts file for the unit testing. It is important that these tests must always ensure 100% code coverage, since the CLI for Microsoft 365 is satisfied with nothing less. Writing this test was new to me and created a learning curve, but I have to say that I have benefited a lot from Martin Linkstool's blog, where he explains in a clear way how to best write these tests and what each command does in such a test. So check out his blog if you want to write unit tests for the CLI. Last but not least is the documentation. That is also very important, because this documentation is used to have a clear documentation database on the CLI for Microsoft 365 website. The documentation is housed in the docs folder of the repository, also arranged according to their verb and then alphabetically. The command documentation consists of an .md file. It is also important that this documentation is included in the table of contents, and you do this by adding the paths to the mkeydocs.yml file. That is the information that is really important when you want to make your first contribution. Once you've done with creating your command or enhancement or whatever, and you've checked everything, you can commit and publish your branch to your fork in GitHub. After that, you go to your GitHub fork and create a new pull request. By creating a pull request, you indicate that you want to merge certain pieces of code with the main code of the CLI. Of course, you cannot do this directly, but via pull request, you allow the maintainers to do this for you. In the title of the pull request, you give a short description, for example, adds command or enhances command, followed by the command, its name itself, and closed with a hashtag followed by the 4 digits of the issue. You do the same in the description field with a slightly longer explanation added with any remarks if there are any. And in the description too, you have to write the hashtag with the 4 digits of the issue. So in this way, you allow the PR to be linked to the issue. Once the pull request has been created, you wait until one of the maintainers feels called to check your PR. When checking your PR, they will check whether or not there are improvements or errors in it. If this is the case, they will request changes to your PR and convert your pull request in draft modus. You can then solve these changes, mark every change as resolved, and when you're done, you can mark your PR as ready for review. Once the maintainers find that your pull request is complete, they will approve it and merge it with the main code of the CLI shortly afterwards. The nice thing is that you are not only appreciated for what you do for the CLI for Microsoft 365, you're also involved, and that's a nice one. Because one of my first commands I wrote was the Power Platform card get, which will display the data of an adaptive card from the Power Platform. Even though an adaptive card is part of the Power Platform, it uses the dynamic 365 platform, and the API to get an adaptive card is therefore also part of the Dynamics 365. And because I had done something about Dynamics 365, I was only tagged by Albert Jan Scott out of nowhere in another issue with the question if I also knew something about data first table rows, because they also use the Dynamics 365 platform. And to be honest, I had no experience with these APIs, but I was interested in figuring it out, and I did. And by the fact that I researched this, I have created other insights and learned a lot about these parts of Microsoft 365. And that's what I like, to figure things out, to learn, and to step out of my comfort zone. Because this way, I think you can become a better developer. So thank you for listening. If you're interested in contributing for the CLI for Microsoft 365, do not hesitate to contact us. By the way, we also have a very nice Discord where you can join, ask questions, follow what changes. On this Discord, there's also a very cool guy named Parker Bot who tries to thank each contributor in an original way when your pull request is merged.
Excellent. Thank you, Nico, on that one. Really, really cool stuff. Awesome, awesome. So I will take over the screen sharing. Thank you for that. Really awesome. Cool, good to have first-time presenters. I think, Nico, this was first time for you as well, if I remember correctly, which is kind of cool as well.
That's right.
Excellent. So we have 2 first-time presenters in the call. You are absolutely more than welcome to come back. What typically happens for the presenters, you do the first-time presenting, it's like, yeah, this is actually kind of fun. I'll come back. Almost like the contributions, what Nico was telling about contributing the open source and CLI for Microsoft 365. So that might actually happen, but you are more than welcome both coming back. And for the other ones in the call, we always welcome new presenters. If you build something, you want to share your experiences around Microsoft 365, it might be configuration things in Microsoft 365 or learning new things, sharing. All of those are more than welcome to get shared on these calls as well, because we really want to understand across the community what we learn and how we learn the things and what works and what doesn't work. Anyway, for today, I think that's pretty much it for today, as mentioned, and I'm repeating myself. The recording will be available within 24 hours at the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel at AKMS M365 videos. Subscribe to that today. You will get then notified when the new videos are. We do release at least one new video on that channel every single weekday, which is really, really cool. So there's new guidance demo videos and all of that all the time. Typically, it's roughly 9 videos in a week. So there's a lot of new content within that channel. The next Viva Connection and SPFx call is on January 12th, 7 a.m. Pacific time, and the next Thursday at the same time, we have the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call on 5th of January. We do have cool demos on that one as well. I can already say that we'll have Chris Kent to do another one of his list formatting for your horses demo, and Louisa Fries is going to talk about Power Platform development in that call. If you're looking into downloading recurrent invites or any of the calls, go to the AKMS community calls. We are adjusting the URLs a bit, or AKMS M365 calls, either one, and you will find the right location to get the recurrent invite in your calendar. But that's it for now. Have a great rest of the week. Have a great New Year's. Celebrate New Year Eve and get some charge your batteries on Sunday, and we'll get back to business on Monday. I guess that's the typical process for everybody during next weekend. Thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nico. Thank you, Sergey. And thank you for all of the attendees who were on the call. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.